Now I invite our Honourable guest speaker, Lord Reed of the UK Supreme Court, to respond to online responses.
Well, it's been extremely stimulating for me to take part in this wonderful gathering of judges from around the world. It's a rare opportunity and it's a wonderful initiative by the University of Leicester. I should say that I gave you an edited version of the lecture that I had prepared so as to keep to the time. A full version will be posted online by the university and also by the UK Supreme Court. I'm not going to respond to all the remarks that have been made, but I will respond to a few. First of all, can I thank our Malaysian colleague for being at her desk so late at night. That was really above and beyond the call of duty. Malaysia is a country with which we have an especially close relationship because so many Malaysian lawyers train at our Inns of Court. And it's a country where I had the pleasure of visiting the courts a few years ago when I gave the Sultan Azman Shah lecture. I'd very much welcome a closer relationship with the Malaysian High Court. Our colleague from the Maldives, I think, made a very important point when she said that countries from the global north contributing to judicial capacity capacity building compensated for an inequilibrium in resources. I think that's a fair point. Countries such as the UK have a well-resourced judiciary by international standards. We're lucky in having a very good judicial college and in having some time to take our heads up, as it were, from the immediate burden of the cases we hear, to reflect about what we're doing. And I feel that we have a moral obligation to assist judges elsewhere in the world who are less well-resourced than we are, so far as we can. In response to our colleague from Mauritius, I'm very interested in what he said about costs being a barrier to access to justice in the JCPC, and I will follow that up. He made a point which was also made by the Chief Justice of Kenya about the security of judges being an issue. I very much agree. I quite often meet judges who face danger in one form or another. I've encountered judges who need to have a bodyguard. I've encountered a judge in a South American country who couldn't go out in public because of the risk of assassination. I've encountered a particular problem in some South American countries where, in order to increase the diversity of the judiciary and get women onto the bench, they invited quite young female professors to become very senior judges. And they're now finding themselves and their families under physical threat. It makes it's important for them, I think, to know that they have the support of other judges elsewhere in the world to support their morale. And it also works the other way around. I mean, we occasionally here have to decide cases where we know we're going to face criticism from politicians and in the media if we decide the case in the way we think is right. But when you think of the risks that other judges are facing elsewhere in the world, it's really nothing to worry about. And it can be our populations that are at risk, and judges who have a very important role in maintaining the stability of their society. One of the most moving places that I've visited a number of times now is Sarajevo. You can stand there in the Jewish cemetery, which is on a hill overlooking the town, and you are where snipers were based during the conflict, shooting at virtually point-blank range civilians who were trying to fetch food and water, or visit the tunnel by the airport through which people tried to get out of Sarajevo when it was under siege and get assistance. But you can also, in the same city, visit what's called New Sarajevo, where there are schools and squares named in honor of people like Milosevic and Karadzic, who were convicted of war crimes. So it remains rather as Northern Ireland was until recently in this country, a divided community where the Constitutional Court has a critical role in maintaining its stability, and they deserve all the support that we can possibly give them. In response to our Ethiopian colleague, I would very much welcome further exchanges with his court, as he suggested. We have had exchanges in the past. I remember meeting his predecessor and having lunch with her, in fact, in London just a few years ago, and further meetings would be very welcome. In response to our Greek colleague, he mentioned the importance of exchanges in the form of spending a week or two at a foreign court. This is something I had experience of myself about probably more than 20 years ago now, when I spent a couple of weeks at the Supreme French Criminal Court, and I can recommend that sort of experience. It's a wonderful way of getting a real insight into the way another legal system operates, which you can't obtain simply from books or from a brief bilateral meeting. Our colleague from Ukraine's contribution reminded me of a number of things. I mentioned that I took part online in a conference of Ukrainian judges. That conference had to be postponed, but it was supposed to take place because of a missile attack. And I took part in it on the postponed occasion. The judges from Ukraine whom I've met have the president of his court I've met now a number of times in Brno and Vienna and Athens, they come there by car, and then they drive back into the war zone after our meeting. Some of them I know have managed to arrange for their children to leave the country and be educated elsewhere for their safety. But they and their wives or husbands continue to work in Kiev in a situation of great danger. When I was in Athens with the president of the Supreme Court of Ukraine in September, one of the judges of his court was killed by a missile attack while we were there. These are brave men and women who deserve our admiration. I'm struck. I mean, frankly, one of the most valuable aspects of international meetings from the perspective of a judge like me, who leads a very fortunate life in a stable country where judicial independence is respected, is being reminded of the importance of these values and of the courage that can be required to live up to them. These colleagues are an example to us. They may see us sometimes as an example of how to do the technicalities of the job well. I see many of them as an example of how to get the fundamentals right. Thank you.